Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Jessica Harrington. Tonight on the Now Bakersfield, honoring history and remembering a tragedy, the unique way one group of local students got the chance to tour Ground Zero at the World Trade Center in New York. Plus, if you still need a plan for dinner tonight, California Pizza Kitchen is giving a portion of tonight's proceeds to a good cause. And believe it or not, the holidays are right around the corner, and we have some tips for budgeting and making sure you can mark off everything on your Christmas shopping list. That's all ahead on the Now Bakersfield. Kumasi?
Let's get our first check of today's lineup here on the Now. There is a shortage of doctors. Millions of people have trouble just finding a primary care doctor. We're going to tell you the main reason behind that. Today marks 17 years since the 9/11 attacks. We are talking to a retired U.S. Air Marshal about what they do to keep us safe and what they don't do. Also in our lineup, how preparing for retired life when you are single is a lot different from couples. We have some good information for you there.
17 years ago today, Americans watched as a terrorist attack was carried out on the Twin Towers in New York City, where thousands of lives were lost. But tonight, the Now Bakersfield's Tori Cooper shadowed a local history class to watch as junior high students revisited the tragic day through a virtual reality experience in their classroom. Tori?
Jessica, even though the Stone Creek Junior High School students I spoke to today were not alive during September 11th, today they traveled back to New York City using these goggles and their history textbooks to get a feel for what it was really like on September 11th, 17 years ago.
All right, here we go. I'm going to start this video.
Stone Creek students took a trip back in time.
Thousands of lives were suddenly ended by evil, despicable acts of terror. The pictures of airplanes flying into buildings, fires burning, huge structures collapsing, have filled us with disbelief, terrible sadness, and a quiet, unyielding anger. These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat.
History teacher Dustin Maxey.
And it's a day where we need to recognize those people and let us never forget those people. We should always remember.
Doing his best to bring September 11th alive for students who were not around during the time of terror. But now, 17 years later, his students like 7th grader Taylor Willman can better understand the gravity of what happened.
It was just unbelievably sad.
On that day that impacted innocent Americans and their families left behind.
246 people boarded their morning flight. 2,606 people went to work up in the Twin Towers. 343 firefighters went to work that day in New York. 60 police officers and 8 paramedics. And all of those people, they passed away that day.
Willman and her classmates listening to the speech former President James W. Bush gave following the attack.
The search is underway for those who were behind these evil acts.
While Maxey instructed students to take notes on the primary and secondary sources that were used during the video.
The primary sources are an account of an event created by someone who took part in or witnessed an event.
Perfect.
Helping students understand how to interpret moments like September 11th from relevant historical sources like video footage, journals, pictures, and more. But Maxey also wanted students to feel the magnitude of the aftermath. So he used these virtual reality goggles to transport students from their classroom chairs to the 9/11 Ground Zero Memorial for the first time with the help of the Google Expedition application.
It was cool being able to see the memorial and not actually have to go there. It felt like you were actually there, and it felt like you could walk in it.
Maxey's September 11th lesson plan: sticking with students.
And be kind and respectful to all the people who lost their lives that day.
And the memory of those lost?
Seeing all those people, all their names on there.
Forever remembered by students.
Without a doubt, the classroom had a somber emotion throughout the class session, but the history teacher made sure to ensure students that our government continues to go above and beyond to make sure a tragedy like this does not reoccur on U.S. soil. And if you would like to visit Ground Zero virtually like the Stone Creek history class, just head to our website, turnto23.com. For the Now Bakersfield, I'm Tori Cooper, 23 ABC.
Tori, thanks. Tonight, you can get dinner at California Pizza Kitchen and donate to a great cause. California Pizza Kitchen is holding a fundraiser in support of Firefighter Appreciation Month. Proceeds will be donated to the California Fire Foundation, a nonprofit that provides financial assistance to families of fallen firefighters. To participate, just mention to your server at CPK that you're supporting this fundraiser, and 20% of your food and drink purchase will be donated to the California Fire Foundation. This can be applied to dine-in, takeout, online, catering, curbside, or delivery orders. Just so you know, CPK closes at 10 p.m. In consumer news, we all say we want to save more money than we spend, especially with the holidays now in sight, and sometimes that's a lot easier said than done.
Now you need to kind of recommit to the fact of, okay, how much are we bringing in every month? How much are we allowed to spend every month?
Experts have these 3 tips to help supercharge your savings. First, find motivation to stick to your budget by thinking about where you want to be 10 years from now. Second, when your paycheck comes in, make sure your bills, savings, and 401k get paid first. And finally, start thinking about Christmas presents now. Buying a little at a time is much easier on a budget than one big shopping trip in December. Kumasi?
Right now, we are facing a shortage of primary care doctors. This is according to United Health. About 13% of people in the U.S. live in a county that doesn't have enough doctors, and that number could double by 2030. So what's the solution to this? Well, nearly half of all states allow nurse practitioners to take on primary care duties. Generally, if you see a nurse practitioner, it's going to cost you less. Nurse practitioners are also more likely to work in underserved areas. United Health also estimates that more physician assistants will practice primary care by 2025, and certified nurse midwives can also take on these duties, but not as many as nurses or physician's assistants. However, they can be really helpful, especially for women, and take the burden from other healthcare professionals. All right, let's check out the Now News feed. You remember the op-ed in the New York Times alleging a quiet resistance inside the White House? Well, now President Trump's oldest son is concerned the circle of people his father can trust is getting smaller. Donald Trump Jr. told ABC News Today that the group still includes his sister Ivanka, her husband, and some outside the family. We've heard of soda machines and snack machines, but I'm sure you have never heard of a crack pipe machine. Well, police just found 3 potential ones on New York's Long Island, with the pipes costing $2 each. They're still trying to figure out who put these machines there and if criminal charges will be filed. Disturbing numbers from a new Harvard study. Researchers found in the beginning of the opioid overdose epidemic, doctors gave no good reason for prescribing opioids to patients nearly a third of the time. They hope the study can help explain why so many unneeded opioid prescriptions get written. All right, back to our lineup with today marking 17 years since the 9/11 attacks. We are talking with a retired U.S. Air Marshal about what's constantly changing to keep us safe in the skies, what they do and what they don't do. You're watching The Now.
of hand dryers. Other experts are also recommending that these dryers shouldn't even be at schools, daycares, or restaurants, other places where we're vulnerable to getting sick. Now, this isn't necessarily a defect in the hand dryers, but rather people not washing their hands correctly. Kamasi?
All right, thanks, Annie. Cell phone maker Blue is going to have to make some changes after allegations it deceived customers about the disclosure of their personal info. You may have one of these phones, or maybe you've seen them because they are low priced and top selling on Amazon. The FTC is accusing Blue of falsely claiming it limits third-party collection to only information needed to perform requested services. In the new settlement with the FTC, Blue can't misrepresent how much it protects your privacy anymore. Now, some of us are better at this than others, resisting overspending. But when it comes to children, adults have a lot less restraint. More than half of parents are going into debt or borrowing money to buy things for their kids that they really don't need. We're talking about designer clothes, entertainment, private school, pets, even a cell phone. Credit Karma came up with this research. They found that social media was a big driver in parents' decisions and trying to give their child a better life than they had. New technology could make your job search a lot easier. Career Builder is working on an AI technology that builds resumes and applies to jobs for people. It's also incorporating map-based targeting. So say you walk by a business and it's hiring, you'll get an alert about the job opening there. The technology will be available through Career Builder's mobile app.
Well, the Condors preseason game is just a little more than 2 weeks away, and tomorrow you've got the chance to start buying up tickets for your favorite games. Single game tickets will be on sale, and if you buy tomorrow, you'll be entered into a drawing to win one of 12 prizes, including a replica jersey. You can purchase tickets to a variety of locations, and after tomorrow, all single game tickets will go back on sale Monday, September 24th. All right, turning things over to 23 ABC's and the Now's Allison Gargaro. It's going to be nice to be around the hockey rink here pretty soon.
It really is. Temperatures are cooling down significantly later this week. We had a high of 95 degrees here in Bakersfield today, so that's a little bit cooler than what we were seeing this time yesterday, but those temperatures only going to continue to drop as we head toward your weekend. That's all due to this low pressure system that's going to be digging down, not bringing us any precipitation, but breezy conditions. And we were definitely seeing that the past few afternoons. Today, we've already seen gusts reaching 43 miles per hour in Jawbone Canyon, up to 45 in Lancaster, and we're looking at nearing 30 up in the Kern River Valley. So that will be continuing each afternoon for the rest of the work week. Now, as for air quality, it is still going to be hanging out in the moderate range tomorrow with an AQI of 100. But again, just 1 point away from unhealthy for sensitive groups. As for temperatures, well, we're starting off the morning at 66 degrees, then jumping up to 89, right around 90 degrees tomorrow as a high here in Bakersfield, and then dropping significantly down to 85 degrees on Thursday, and then hanging out in those upper 80s, continuing through early next week. We'll be at 90 degrees on Tuesday, and the first day of the fair, which is on Wednesday, actually going to be 91 degrees. So it looks like we'll be hanging out in the 90s, which is right near seasonal for the start of the fair. Tori?
All right, and tomorrow on the Now, Bakersfield, school is back in session and flu season is kicking into gear. So we're seeing what germs and pathogens are living on your everyday surfaces and how you can protect you and your students. Again, that's tomorrow on the Now, Bakersfield.
Another check of our news feed. New research shows talking to little ones doesn't just help them learn to talk. It's linked to better language skills and higher IQ scores once they get to school. The authors found children who had more turns speaking back and forth with adults averaged 14 to 27% higher performances on IQ tests. Fans probably remember actor James Van Der Beek from Dawson's Creek, but this weekend he shared a personal post on he and his wife's struggles to conceive. The father of 5 said his wife had 3 miscarriages, which has given him new insight and has led to others sharing their experiences. Well, if you see a 7-foot box on the neighbor's doorstep around Christmas time, don't freak out. This could be just a Christmas tree from Amazon. The retailer is planning to sell and ship fresh, full-size trees without water, but they will be sent within 10 days of being cut, maybe even sooner, so they should survive shipping just fine. But your postal carrier, who knows? Well, 17 years ago today, terrorists used planes to carry out the worst terror attack in U.S. history. We have made a lot of changes to airport security since then to keep us safe. The Now's Nicole Vowell shows us a daily duty in the air designed to keep our nation safe.
What's on me?
Keeping people in our country safe.
Hey, these are some moves I can do.
Is something Charlie Moore has literally fought for
Palm heel,
his
elbows,
entire career.
2 elbows. I don't know how to do much else. That's all I've ever done for most of my adult life.
Even now, post-retirement, he's still tackling the topic, teaching tactics to civilians and officers alike.
Concealed handgun carry, self-protection.
Moore spent 33 years in law enforcement, New York State Police, U.S. Marshals. Then, in 2001, after the deadliest attack on American soil, Moore was deployed to Ground Zero.
Flying over the Trade Center the next day, early the next morning, and just seeing what used to be there.
That historic event shifted Moore's job, becoming a chief of force as a U.S. Air Marshal.
And then they were ramping up, per the president's orders, post 9/11.
Pre 9/11, the U.S. saw other countries' planes taken over and was prepared.
The only thing that happened was, we complied with the terrorists taking over the plane, and they landed in whatever country of choice, and then they let everybody go.
But during 9/11, the U.S. saw terrorists turn those political statements on home turf in a destructive and deadly way.
A plane had never been used in that method before as a weapon of mass destruction. So now it's on everyone's mind that, that's a possibility.
Protocols change, planes change, pilots were armed, cockpit doors secured, and Moore's job became critical.
We have to be right 100% of the time, and they only have to be right once.
The number of air marshals flying commercial on any given day is classified, and what they do may not be what you think. Their job is not to interfere with daily passenger disputes. The ones we see regularly, their sole job is simple.
But basically they're to prevent a terrorist takeover of the plane and access to the flight deck.
They silently observe and secure the nation from the air, fighting for public safety.
Yeah, I gotta maintain, okay?
Something important to not only the people, but to Moore personally, no matter the elevation. For the Now, I'm Nicole Vowell.
Thanks, Nicole. The fight against fake online ads continues. This time, ProPublica is trying to get people to help them out with this. ProPublica is a nonprofit news outlet that does a lot of fact-checking. They're not only looking into which political ads are fake, but why certain people are being targeted. So they've come up with a plug-in for internet browsers. It copies the ads that you see on Facebook, and then the ads get sent to ProPublica. They gather different types of information about the ads, but the most important information is probably the ad's target audience. So ProPublica has already uncovered fake ads on Facebook. One political ad targeted Facebook users who were over the age of 40 and actually turned out to be an ad for a scam site that tricked people into paying for fake tech support. ProPublica promises not to collect any of your personal information if you do download their plugin. Finally in our lineup, how preparing for a retired life when you are single is different from couples. Some things to consider when the Now continues. And for many older singles, there are far more pressing concerns on their minds, like financial security. The Now's Annie Taylor is finding out how singles should be planning for retirement differently.
When you are operating independently, there's just more risk because you don't have, the financial support of a second spouse.
When you have a spouse, you have someone helping out with expenses, as well as a built-in caregiver to lean on. Financial expert Jonathan DeWong says when you're single or even childless, planning for your golden years can be trickier.
But it's even more important when you're single to make sure that what you want to have happen to the things you own and what personal decisions you want for your medical well-being and financial well-being, that those things are well defined. And when you're single, it may not be as clear.
If it's just you bringing home the bacon, Jonathan says having an emergency fund is imperative. But you also might want to consider having disability insurance too.
If you're still working, disability insurance may be very important as well, because if you become disabled, there's nobody to support you. And if you are not someone of means, you want to have that income available to you in the event that you're disabled for a longer period of time.
According to the Department of Health and Human Services, someone turning the age of 65 has nearly a 70% chance of needing long-term care in their remaining years. That's why Jonathan says, keep your friends close. You'll want to give someone durable power of attorney for healthcare.
No matter what age you are, but particularly as you get older, in the event that something happens, you cannot make a decision for yourself. You want to have those documents in place.
No matter your status, we all have to plan. So we might as well start today and do it accordingly.
If you don't have a plan, there is one for you. It just may not align with what you want.
For the Now, I'm Annie Taylor.
All right, great things to know, Annie. Thank you. All right, so here's a quick look at what we are working on for tomorrow here at the Now. We are going to be talking all things Space Force. So the Vice President announced, you probably remember this, a possible 6th branch of the military over the summer. So a lot of questions about it. What would they do, and what are the chances that this whole thing could really take off? Well, luckily, we've been digging into that for you, and we're going to have all of the answers tomorrow here on the Now.
And coming up tonight on 23 ABC News at 11, it's been a record-breaking fire season in California. Tonight, we take an in-depth look at the program serving as the so-called backbone of CAL FIRE. Prison inmates fighting wildfires, how they help save lives and save the state nearly $100 million in firefighting costs. Again, that's tonight on 23 ABC News at 11. And speaking of fire dangers here, the temperatures are still kind of warm right now.
They are warm, and we've been seeing very strong winds as well as very low humidity values. That actually brought an elevated fire risk to our mountain and desert cities this afternoon, and that will be continuing for the rest of the work week. Now, as for temperatures, still in the 90s here in the valley today, and we could be seeing a little bit of that again tomorrow, but dropping down to the 80s. That's because a low pressure system that's pushing in is bringing much cooler temperatures as well as breezy conditions. So we've already seen gusts this afternoon reaching up to 45 miles per hour. That was right near Lancaster, and we're seeing nearing 30-mile-per-hour gusts in China Lake tomorrow evening. But as for temperatures, well, they're cooling down to 85 degrees on Thursday, and then they'll be warming up slowly, and I say warming very lightly because up to 86 on Friday,
right,
and not even reaching 90 until later next week by the time the fair starts.
That's perfect. We'll take those 80s. That's going to do it for us here on the Now. We'll see you back here tonight for 23 ABC News at 11.